They say that on Nui Cam, not everyone who gets lost is lost because they forgot the trail. Some people grow up in those forests. They know every slope, every bamboo thicket, every moss-covered stone. And yet, on certain nights, when the fog settles thicker than usual, they can walk for hours and still end up beside the same old tree. Others say that on Vo Bo Hong, pale blue lights sometimes appear halfway up the mountain. They do not look like flashlights. They do not look like headlights. They do not look like fire. They move in a line, slowly, as if someone is carrying lanterns and leading the way. That night, I brought a recorder to Thiên Cấm Sơn to make an episode about the strange lights on the mountain. I came down the next morning, alone. But when I opened the audio file, I heard 4 separate breaths. One belonged to me. One belonged to the cameraman. One belonged to the editor who came with us. And the last one belonged to a child who had vanished on that mountain 30 years before. This story is inspired by Nui Cam, also known as Thiên Cấm Sơn, in An Giang, Vietnam. The mountain is closely tied to the Seven Mountains region, pilgrimage routes, forest trails, old spiritual legends, and local stories about hermits, hidden debts, strange lights, and people losing their way even when they know the terrain. The story you are about to hear uses real place names and legend-inspired fiction. It is written as a cinematic horror narrative for audio. And it begins with one rule. If you hear your name from the forest, do not answer.
My name is Dewey. I am not an explorer. I am not a ghost hunter either. My job is ordinary: recording, sound design, post-production for storytelling channels. If someone had asked me whether I believed in ghosts, I used to laugh. I believed in wind getting distorted through a microphone. I believed in low frequencies that could make human skin prickle. I believed in insect noise stretched through audio software until it sounded like crying. I believed in imagination, especially when people stood too long in the dark. But I did not believe a mountain could call a person by name. Not until the trip to Thiên Cấm Sơn. It was the end of the 7th lunar month. The rains in the Mekong Delta had stopped only 2 days earlier. The road from Long Shuyen toward Tin Bien was still damp, with rice fields, sugar palms, and a heavy gray sky on both sides. I went with Mai and Phuc. Mai was the editor, 30 years old, shoulder-length hair, always carrying a black-spined notebook. She was not afraid of spiritual stories. What she feared was making dull content. Phuc was the cameraman. 26, obsessed with drones, wide shots, and fog moving through trees. From the moment we got in the car, he kept saying, "Dewey, if we actually capture the strange lights, this video is going to explode." I laughed. Strange lights are usually motorbike lamps, house lights, or stories people tell because they sound better that way. I looked through the window and asked, "Do you know why they call it Nui Cam, the Forbidden Mountain?" I said, "There are a lot of explanations. Some people say the mountain used to be dangerous, full of wild animals, and few dared to climb it. Some say people were once forbidden from going up. Others connect it with stories about hermits and spiritual masters practicing in the mountains."
Mais no dead.
That is enough for me. Real enough, but still atmospheric. I said nothing more. There was one thing I had never told Mai or Phuc. I was born in An Giang, but I almost never went up Nui Cam. My mother forbade it. Not in the casual way adults tell children not to wander too far. It was absolute. When I was little and asked why, she only said, "Our family has nothing missing that needs to be found up there." I would say, "But people go there to pray. People go there to visit." My mother would stop whatever she was doing. Then she would look at me for a long time and whisper, "That mountain returned you to me once. I do not want it to remember." Back then, I thought she was superstitious. After she died, I found an old brown cloth pouch in her wardrobe. Inside was a faded photograph. It showed a man standing near a lake on the mountain. Behind him were white fog and the blurred shape of a Buddha statue in the distance. He was holding a child, maybe 2 years old. The child's face was washed out by sunlight, but one small hand was gripping a red thread. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "Do not bring Dewey back to the mountain before he turns 35. That year, I had just turned 35. We reached the foot of the mountain a little after 3 in the afternoon. The tourist area was still crowded. Pilgrims, vehicles, vendors, children, sandals scraping over concrete. All the sounds blended together into something almost comforting. The more I looked at it, the more the horror stories about Nui Cam felt distant and exaggerated. In a place this busy, where could a ghost even hide? I met our local contact, a sugar palm juice vendor named Aunt Hai Swang. She was in her 50s, sun-darkened, soft-spoken, with sharp eyes. She placed 3 cold drinks in front of us and asked, "How late are you planning to film?" I said, "We want to shoot sunset, then go near the Vo Bo Hong area for night audio. Is there anyone who can guide us?" Aunt Hai Swang froze while pushing a straw into one of the cups. "At night?" Fook smiled. "Yes, ma'am. We have permission. We will only film lightly. We will not disturb anything." She looked at Fook, then at me. "It is not about disturbing anything. At night on that mountain, even people who know the paths are not always sure where they are walking." I took out my recorder and asked, "Have you heard stories about locals getting lost even though they know the mountain?" She did not answer right away. She turned and looked up toward the peak. Clouds were crossing the upper slopes, covering part of the mountain. Afternoon light fell across dark patches of forest, making Thiên Cấm Sơn look like a massive stone body breathing under the sky. Finally, she said, "I have heard many things. Whether you believe them is up to you. But if you truly want someone to guide you, wait here. I will call Uncle Muoy." About 10 minutes later, an old motorbike rolled up. The man riding it was around 60, thin, sun-browned, with deep but gentle eyes. He wore a faded button-up shirt and a cloth cap. Tied to the back of his motorbike were a coil of rope and an old raincoat. "Which one of you is Dewey?" he asked. I was startled. "I am." He looked me up and down. His eyes stopped on my left wrist. I was wearing the old red thread from my mother's pouch. I did not know why I had brought it on this trip. Uncle Muoy said, "You are grown now." I frowned. "Excuse me?" He looked away, as if he had said too much. "I mean, you are old enough to climb. Come on. If we wait much longer, the fog will come down." I asked, "Have you ever seen the strange lights on the mountain?" Uncle Muoy smiled, though I could not tell if there was any happiness in it. "There are many lights on this mountain. Some belong to lamps, some belong to people, and some do not want you to know where they come from. Fook immediately turned on his camera. That was perfect, Uncle. Can you say it again? Uncle Muoy looked straight into the lens.
No.
If a sentence is spoken once and the listener does not remember it, perhaps it is better forgotten. We took the main road up first, then walked along a smaller path near the lake as evening began to dim. The air on the mountain was cooler. The noise from below faded behind us. Soon there were only sandals on stone, wet leaves brushing together, and the distant sound of a temple bell, clear one moment and swallowed by fog the next. Tui Lim Lake appeared in the gray-silver light. The water was wide and strangely calm. Fish occasionally broke the surface, sending small ripples outward, and then everything flattened again like an old mirror. Farther away, the Maitreya Buddha sat against a cloudy sky. His face looked kind, but as the mist thickened, that smile seemed blurred, as though seen through a veil.
Mais whispered.
This is beautiful. We do not even have to force the atmosphere. Fook set up his camera and filmed the water. I put on my headphones and tested the ambient audio. At first, there was only wind. Then a tiny sound appeared in my headphones. Like someone tapping a fingernail against the side of a bowl. I took off the headphones. In the open air, I heard nothing. I put them back on. I turned the microphone toward the lake. The sound became clearer. I saw my expression change. What is it? I handed her the headphones. She listened for a few seconds, then frowned. What is that? It sounds like somebody tapping from under the water. Uncle Muoy stood beside a tree, looking at the lake. Do not point the microphone at the water for too long. Fook laughed. Why? Are the fish talking? Uncle Muoy did not laugh. Not everything underwater wants to be heard. That sentence silenced all three of us. A gust of wind crossed the lake. Fog descended from nowhere, moving fast, covering the far bank. In that fog I saw a light. Small. Pale blue. It appeared above the lake, low over the surface, then drifted slowly toward the shore. Fook, I whispered, film that side. He turned the camera. But the moment the lens faced it, the light went out. He lowered the camera. I did not see anything. I shook her head too. Only Uncle Muoy looked at me. You saw it, did you not? I asked. Saw what? The light. I tried to sound calm. Maybe it was a reflection from somewhere. He nodded. Yes, your father said the same thing once. I went still. You knew my father? Uncle Muoy did not answer. He tapped his bamboo stick lightly against the ground.
Come?
It is getting dark. The trail leaving the lake was narrower than I expected. Trees crowded both sides. Roots rose out of the wet earth like black veins. The ground was still damp after the rain, and every step made a soft sucking sound. The farther we went, the farther the temple bell seemed to drift away. Our phone signal weakened, then disappeared completely. I turned on a small flashlight. Fook muttered, "No signal. I guess the drone is useless." Uncle Muoy said, "That is for the best." "Why?" "There are places up here where things fly up and do not want to come down." Fook gave a nervous laugh. "You really know how to tell a scary story, Uncle." Uncle Muoy stopped walking. "I am not telling a story. I am stating rules." Mai immediately asked, "What rules?" He raised 3 fingers. "First, walk behind me. No one separates from the group. Second, if you see lights, do not follow them. Third, if you hear someone call your name from the forest, do not answer." Fook glanced at me. "Due, that belongs in the intro." I could not laugh. Because at the exact moment Uncle Muoy finished speaking, I heard someone whisper, "Yui." The voice came from the left side of the trail. A woman's voice, very much like my mother's. I stopped. I bumped into my shoulder. "Are you all right?" I stared into the forest. I saw only trees and fog. Uncle Muoy turned back. "You heard it already?" I swallowed. It sounded like my mother. He came closer and put one hand on my shoulder. "Your mother is dead, is she not?" I did not ask how he knew. I only nodded. He said quietly, "Then you must not answer. The dead who love you will not call you into a forest at night." The sentence froze my spine. We kept walking. About 20 minutes later, the trail began to climb. The trees covered the sky. The last light vanished quickly, as if someone had placed a black lid over the entire mountain. Fook walked at the back, turning every now and then to film behind us. At one bend, he suddenly whispered loudly, "There are lights." Mai and I turned. Fook was pointing the camera toward a rocky slope in the distance. Between the tree trunks, 3 pale blue lights floated. They were not still. They bobbed slowly, as though held by unseen hands. Mai opened her mouth but said nothing. I pressed record. Uncle Muoy snapped, "Turn off the camera." Fook kept looking through the monitor. "Uncle, this is real. I got it." Uncle Muoy walked over and pulled the camera down hard. I said, "Turn it off." Fook's voice sharpened. "What are you doing? This is exactly what we came here to shoot." Uncle Muoy looked at him. "You think you are filming it, but perhaps it is marking you." At that moment, one of the 3 lights separated from the others. It began drifting toward us. Not quickly, but certainly. Uncle Muoy grabbed Mai's wrist and mine. "Go." Fook stayed a few seconds longer. I shouted, "Fook!" He startled and ran after us. Behind us, the blue light slipped between the trees. And inside my recorder, which was still running, I heard a child laugh. We moved fast for nearly 10 minutes before Uncle Muoy stopped beside a large tree. A faded red cloth was tied around the trunk. He shone his light across the ground. "This is not right." Mai was breathing hard. "What is wrong? We already passed this place." Fook immediately objected. That is impossible. We went straight. Uncle Muoy pointed at the tree. I tied this cloth here more than 10 years ago. It marks a place where you must not turn left. I stared at the cloth. My heart began to pound. The red strip on the tree looked exactly like the red thread on my wrist. I opened the offline map on her phone. The screen spun. Our location jumped from place to place. One moment it showed us near the lake. The next, down at the foot of the mountain. Fook tried to call someone, but there was no service. He was getting angry now. Why don't we just go back the way we came? Uncle Muoy said, the way we came is no longer the same way. I looked at him. What does that mean? He planted his bamboo stick in the mud. There are parts of this mountain that belong to people in the daytime. At night, they belong to something else. A sound came from the forest. Crack. Like a branch breaking under a foot. All of us turned. Nothing. Then came the voice. Fook. This time it was a man's voice. Fook went pale. My father, Uncle Muoy said at once. Do not answer. But Fook had already taken a step back. My father is still alive. The voice called again. Fook, come help me. Fook trembled. He had a stroke. His voice sounds exactly like that. Uncle Muoy stepped in front of him. If he is alive, then he is even less likely to be in this forest. Fook shouted, What do you know about it? He shoved past Uncle Muoy and ran toward the voice. Everything happened too fast. I lunged after him, but Uncle Muoy held me back. Do not. Let go of me. Follow him and we lose one more. In the darkness, Fook's flashlight swung wildly between the trees. He called, Dad, where are you? Then his light went out. Silence. A thick, suffocating silence.
M'escrimed.
Fook. No answer. Only my recorder kept running. Inside the headphones, I heard Fook breathing hard. Then I heard him whisper, Dewey, why are you standing there? I went cold. Because the voice did not come from ahead of us. Came from directly behind me. I turned around. No one was there. Uncle Muoy made us dim our lights. The brighter you make yourselves, the more it knows you are afraid. I could barely stand. I helped her walk behind him, calling Fook's name again and again even though I already knew it was useless. Rain began to fall. Not heavily, but cold. Drops passed through the canopy and sounded like whispers above our heads. After another 15 minutes, we saw an old hut tucked against a rock wall. Half the thatched roof had rotted away. The wooden door was warped. In front of the hut stood a small stone altar with a dead incense bowl and a cracked bronze bell. Uncle Muoy said, We rest inside. Wait until after midnight. I asked, Whose hut is this? Someone once practiced here. A hermit? I asked. He did not answer directly. People of the mountain do not like their names spoken carelessly. Inside the hut, the air smelled of mold, old incense smoke, and cold earth. Some torn paper hung on the bamboo wall, the writing almost erased. In one corner sat a small iron chest covered in dust. Fook had been missing for less than an hour, but it felt as if the whole night had already passed. Mai sat with her knees pulled to her chest, eyes red. Dewey, can we call anyone? I lifted my phone. No signal. Uncle Muoy stood at the door, watching the forest. We cannot go down yet. Wait, I could not hold back anymore. Uncle Muoy, you know what is happening, don't you? He turned and looked at me. I know part of it. Where is Fook? If he does not answer again, we may still find him in the morning.
Mais Obed.
What do you mean answer again? Uncle Muoy spoke slowly. It calls your name once so you turn your head, a second time so you walk toward it, a third time so you agree to stay. The hut went silent. Then the bronze bell outside rang by itself. One dry, small note. Uncle Muoy stepped inside and pulled the door shut. Kung. 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 The bell rang evenly, as if someone outside was tapping it with a fingernail. Mai covered her mouth. I pointed the microphone toward the door. In my headphones, the bell stretched into a warped sound. Then came Fook's voice. Yui. Mai started to rise, but I held her down. The voice was right outside the door. I am so cold. Let me in.
Meshuk.
That is Fook. Uncle Muoy shook his head. No, it is not. The voice outside said, Mai, open the door. It is standing behind me. Mai cried without sound. I gritted my teeth. I wanted to open the door. But in the headphones, underneath Fook's voice, I heard another layer. Not one voice. Many. Men, women, children, old people. All of them saying the same thing, overlapping one another. Open the door. I ripped off the headphones and stepped back. Uncle Muoy looked at me. You hear it now? I nodded. How many people are out there? He said, Not people. The bell stopped. A silence followed. Then I heard my mother's voice. Yui. I closed my eyes. The recorder trembled in my hand. I miss you. I bit my lip until I tasted blood. My mother had died of a stroke 3 years earlier. In her final days, she could barely speak. But the voice outside sounded younger, stronger, exactly like when I was a child. Dewey, open the door for me. I whispered.
No.
Her voice softened. Do you not want to know where your father is? My eyes opened. Uncle Muoy turned sharply toward me. Outside the door, my mother's voice continued. He is still waiting for you on the mountain. The voice vanished with a hard gust of wind. The hut sank back into silence. Mai was exhausted, leaning against the bamboo wall. Uncle Muoy gestured for me to approach the iron chest in the corner. Open it. I looked at him. Why me? Because it is not waiting for them. It is waiting for you. The words raised goosebumps along my arms. The chest was not locked. A piece of copper wire had been wrapped around it. I unwound the wire, and the lid creaked open. There was no gold inside.
No extrañe talismán.
Only ordinary things. A rotting notebook, a hand-drawn map, an old compass, and a cassette tape. A label was stuck to the cassette. The writing was blurred, but I could still read it. For Douay, when he is old enough.
Isette frozen. Mais crawled closer.
Douay, whose handwriting is that? I did not answer. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped the tape. In my equipment bag I had a small cassette player, a prop I sometimes used to record analog hiss. I did not know why I had packed it for this trip. While preparing my gear, I had simply thought it might give the video an old texture. Now it fit perfectly in my palm, as though someone had prepared it long before me. I slid the tape in. Pressed play. At first, there was only static. Then a man's voice emerged. Hoarse, tired, but clear. Douay, if you are hearing this tape, it means your mother could not keep you away any longer. I stopped breathing. It was my father's voice. Not the blurred memory of a 5-year-old child. The real voice, so close it felt as if he were sitting in front of me. On the tape, my father said, "I did not die at the foot of the mountain as people told you. I did not abandon your mother either. I stayed because I owed a debt." I stared at me, white-faced. Uncle Muoy lowered his head. The tape kept turning. Back then, I was young, poor, and stupid. I heard people say there was an old treasure hidden somewhere on Thiên Cấm Sơn, something left in the rocks by those who came before. I went up with 3 other men. One knew the trails. One claimed to know charms. One carried a map. And I only carried greed. I heard him sigh. That night we saw lights, blue lights moving in a line along the slope. The guide told us not to follow them. The man who knew charms said they were lights following a vein in the mountain. The man with the map said the treasure had to be that way. So we went. I looked at Uncle Muoy. He did not look back. After a while, we could no longer hear the forest. No insects, no birds, no wind, only the footsteps of 4 men. But when I pointed my light at the ground, I saw 5 shadows. My blood seemed to freeze. The 5th shadow was tiny. It walked between us, like the shadow of a child. Static grew louder. My father coughed. We found a stone door beneath a cliff. It did not look like a cave. It looked built, then hidden. Many names were carved on the door. The man who knew charms could not read them all. He only said it was not treasure. It was a ledger of debts.
Mais whispered.
A ledger of debts. My father's voice continued. Inside, there was no gold, only bamboo tags hanging across the walls. Every tag had a name, a birth year, and a death date. But some tags had no death date, only 2 words, not paid. The red thread around my wrist felt suddenly warm. I saw my own name. I saw the names of the 3 men with me. Then I saw a new bamboo tag, still fresh, hanging alone in the center of the room. His voice broke. It had your name on it. I pressed stop. The hut was freezing. I shook her head. That is impossible. You were not with them. Uncle Muoy said softly, Yes, he was. I turned toward him. What did you say? He looked at me for a long time. You were on the mountain that night. I stood up.
No.
My father left before I was born. That is what my mother told me. Uncle Muoy shook his head. Your mother told you that so you could live normally. My throat tightened. Who are you? He answered, The man who carried you down the mountain. The tape remained in the player. I did not want to hear more, but my hand pressed play on its own. My father's voice returned. When we entered that stone room, you were lying in the center of the floor. You were not crying. You were not smiling. You just looked at me. A red thread was tied around your wrist. I stared at my own wrist. No one knew where you had come from. The guide said we had to leave you there. The man who knew charms knelt and bowed, saying the mountain had shown us something we should never have seen. The man with the map went mad and kept clawing at the stone walls, looking for gold. A distant scream crackled through the tape. Then the stone door closed. I covered her mouth. The other 3 men vanished before my eyes. No blood, no sound. Only me, you, and Muoy Lan were left. I turned to Uncle Muoy. Lan? He nodded. My full name is Muoy Lan. The tape continued. Muoy said that if we wanted to leave, we had to give back what the mountain had called. I held you. I did not know who you were, but you held my hand as if you had known me all your life. I could not leave you. His voice cracked. I begged the mountain to let you go down. I said if something had to be paid, I would pay it in your place. But the voice in the stone said, No one can pay for their own blood. My heartbeat filled my ears. I did not understand those words until we reached the lake. Muoy looked at your face and said, You looked exactly like me when I was little. I stared at me. I could not speak. Dewey, you were not a child I found. You were my son. But your mother and I had never brought you up the mountain. The night you disappeared, you were only 2 years old. No door opened. No footprints were found. Only your red thread lay under the family altar. The hut tilted around me. A memory flashed somewhere in my mind. A small house. The smell of incense. My mother asleep beside a hammock. A pale blue light outside the door. I, 2 years old, stood and followed it. No one called me. Only a tiny bell rang. I sank to my knees. My father said on the tape, Muoy carried you down. I stayed behind to hold the stone door. Before he left, he promised me he would bring you back to your mother. But the mountain would not accept losing what it had called. It took Muoy on the way down. I looked at the man in front of me. Uncle Muoy still stood there. Faded shirt. Old cloth cap. Gentle, sorrowful eyes. I whispered, You died. I turned to him in horror. Uncle Muoy did not deny it. He only said, I made it to the foot of the mountain. I handed you to your mother. Then I could not take another step. I backed away.
No.
Aunt Hai Swang called you. Uncle Muoy looked toward the hut door. Hai Swang did not call anyone. You heard the phone number inside your own head. I remembered the drink stall. Aunt Hai Swang had said, I will call Uncle Muoy. But I had never seen her use a phone. No one greeted him when he arrived. No one looked at him. Except us. No. Except me.
Mais trembled.
Dewey. At the stall, I thought he was someone you knew. I turned to her. You saw him.
M'écrier.
I saw you talking to yourself beside an old motorbike parked on the road. Every sound in the forest seemed to vanish. Uncle Muoy sighed. Only someone who has once been called by the mountain can see the one who guided him back. I gripped the cassette player. Then what about Mai and Fook? They are innocent. He did not answer immediately. A blue light appeared through the crack in the door. Then a second. Then a third. They hung in the rain. Uncle Muoy said, Tonight, the mountain is not calling them. He looked at me. It is calling you. The door of the hut flew open. Wind and rain rushed in.
M'escrimed.
Outside, dozens of blue lights were suspended between the trees. They were no longer far away. They were right in front of us, arranged like a path. Path leading upward. Uncle Muoy held his bamboo stick. If you want to save the other two, you must go to the place where your father stayed behind. I gave a dry laugh. You say that like I have a choice. You do. You can run down. Tomorrow morning, people will find you at the foot of the mountain. But Fook and Mai will no longer remember they came here. They will live on, only sometimes dreaming of a bell. Mai grabbed my hand.
No.
I am not leaving Fook. I looked at her. That was when I realized Mai had never been called by the forest. She was not the one the mountain wanted. Fook had been lured because he was vulnerable. I had been brought back because my time had come. I asked Uncle Muoy, if I go there, what happens? He said, you will learn what the treasure truly is. There really is a treasure? His eyes were very sad. Yes, but no one takes it and remains the same person. We left the hut. The path toward Vo Bo Hong at night did not look like any trail I had ever seen. Blue lights moved ahead of us, revealing wet stone steps one by one. The forest on both sides was completely silent. No insects. No rain on leaves. Only my breathing and Mai's. Uncle Muoy walked behind us. I asked, you are not leading anymore? He said, from here on, you remember the way better than I do. I wanted to say I had never been there, but my feet turned by themselves into a narrow path behind a rock. I knew there would be a large route ahead. I knew there would be a small stream to the left. I knew the third stone would be slippery if I stepped on it. I knew everything, as if the memory of the 2-year-old child had never left my body. I looked terrified. Dewey, have you been here before? I answered, I think my body remembers. We climbed higher. The fog opened in layers. In a clearing near the rock face, I saw Fook. He sat on the ground, clutching his camera, eyes wide and fixed on nothing. Fook! I ran to him. Fook turned slowly.
Mais,
I got it on camera. I looked at the camera screen. On it was an image of me standing in the forest. But not me as I was now. A child. A small child in a white shirt, red thread around his wrist, standing among blue lights. The child looked straight into the lens and smiled. Fook whispered. It kept saying, Dewey is not the one who came down. Dewey is the thing that was released. I slapped him hard. Fook jolted, and his eyes slowly cleared. Where am I? Uncle Muoy pulled him to his feet. If you can walk, walk. Fook began to cry. I heard my father calling. Uncle Muoy said, Everyone hears the thing they are weakest for. No one spoke after that. We kept walking. Near midnight, the rock wall appeared. It was not grand. It was not dramatic. It was only a dark slab of stone hidden behind bushes, the kind of thing no one would notice in daylight. But in the center of it was a narrow crack shaped like a door. Many red threads were tied around that crack. Some old, some new, some already rotting away, some fresh as though tied there yesterday. The cassette player in my hand turned on by itself. The tape was no longer moving, but my father's voice came through anyway. Dewey, you have come home. The stone crack opened when I touched it. There was no thunder, no shaking earth, no blinding light. Only darkness parting inside, revealing a narrow passage down into the mountain. Cold earth breathed out. I shook her head. Do not go in. I looked at her. I have to. Fook grabbed my arm. I am sorry. This is because of me. No, I said. It was never because of you. I turned to Uncle Muoy. Will you come with me? He shook his head. I can only bring you to the door. Why? He smiled gently. Because I have already paid my part. I stepped inside. Mai and Fook tried to follow, but the moment they crossed the threshold, they stopped as if they had hit an invisible wall. Dui!
mais shooted.
Her voice sounded far away. Uncle Muoy stood outside the door. Only the one whose name is written may enter. I walked alone. The narrow passage widened into a chamber deep inside the mountain. Hundreds, maybe thousands, of bamboo tags hung from the walls. They swayed though there was no wind. Each tag bore a name. I did not dare read them. At the center of the room stood a stone table. There was no gold on it.
No jewels. No treasure chest.
Only an old bronze mirror. The surface was cloudy. When I looked down, I did not see my face. I saw a small house at the foot of the mountain. My mother, younger, asleep beside a hammock. A 2-year-old child standing inside the house. A blue light outside the door. the child walking after it. I wanted to scream. The mirror changed. I saw my father and 3 other men walking through the forest. They followed the lights. They opened the stone door. They found the child. My father lifted the child into his arms. A voice filled the stone room. It was not human. Not male, not female, not old, not young. You have taken what belongs to the mountain. My father knelt. He is my son.
No.
He is the keeper of the door. I stepped back. Keeper of the door? The voice spoke again, not from the mirror this time, but from inside my skull. The treasure of Thiên Cấm Sơn is not gold. It is a road. All the bamboo tags on the walls began to tremble. A road where the living see what they desire. A road where the dead call what they miss. A road where the greedy walk forever without arriving. A road where the chosen one returns to open the door. I looked around. In the corner of the chamber sat a man against the wall. His hair and beard were white. His clothes had nearly rotted away. But I recognized him instantly. Dad! He opened his eyes. My father did not look old in a natural way. He looked like someone time had forgotten, leaving only exhaustion behind. Yui. I ran to him and held him. His body was cold as stone. Are you alive? He put a hand on my head. I do not know. There are no days in here. I cried. 30 years of questions broke open inside me, but not one of them came out clearly. My father looked at my wrist. Your mother kept the red thread. I nodded. She is gone. He closed his eyes. A tear slid down his hollow cheek. Then she kept her promise until the end. I asked, "What am I?" He looked toward the bronze mirror. You were born at the hour the mountain door opened. Long ago, people believed that once in a generation, the mountain would choose someone to guard the passage between what the living should and should not enter. The night you disappeared, the mountain called you. I brought you back. I thought if I stayed behind, it would be enough. It was not enough? He shook his head. The keeper must choose for himself. I understood. The entire trip had only one purpose, to bring me back here. The lights had not hunted me. The spirits had not fooled me. They had fulfilled a promise delayed for 33 years. I asked, if I stay, Mai and Fook can go down? Yes. And you? My father smiled. If you accept the door, I can leave. I looked at him. Leave. Such a gentle word for something so merciless. Outside, I heard Mai calling my name. Her voice grew distant, as if it were on the far side of water. I asked, if I refuse? My father did not answer. The mirror lit up. I saw Mai and Fook walking down the mountain at dawn. They did not remember me. No one remembered me. In my mother's photograph, I was gone. The rented room I had in Long Shuyan was empty. All my audio files disappeared. As if I had never existed. The mountain's voice said, what is returned to the wrong place will be erased from that place. I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because I finally understood what my mother meant. That mountain returned you to me once. No, it had not returned me. It had lent me back. The next morning, the rescue team found Mai and Phuc near Tui Lim Lake. Both were soaked and exhausted, but alive. Phuc was holding his damaged camera. The memory card inside was burned black. He remembered nothing after hearing his father's voice in the forest. Mai remembered more. She remembered the hut. She remembered Uncle Muoi. She remembered me stepping into the crack in the stone. But when she told the story, no one believed her. People said there was no current guide on the mountain named Muoilan. One elderly local official heard the name and fell silent for a long time before saying, Muoilan died more than 30 years ago. He carried a child down the mountain after a disappearance in the forest. When he reached the foot of the mountain, he died. Mai asked, what happened to the child? No one knew, because the old record had been lost. Because the mother had taken the child somewhere else. Because officially the child had never disappeared. 3 days later, Mai came to my rented room in Long Shuyan. The landlord said no one named Dewey had ever rented that room. But in the empty room on the desk, there was still a recorder. The battery was dead. The memory card was intact. Mai took it home. Took her a week to open the final file. At first, there was only rain. Then footsteps on stone. Then my breathing. After that, my father's voice. Are you sure? My voice answered, I am afraid. My father said, no one lives without fearing the loss of their own life. I asked, what does a keeper do? He answered, listen, remember, and keep the greedy from opening the wrong road. There was a long silence. Then my voice said, go, Dad. Someone cried. Maybe me. Maybe him. Then the bell rang. Mai said that when she heard this part, every light in her room went out. The recorder kept playing. But the final voice in the file was not mine. It was a child's voice, very close to the microphone. It laughed softly and said, next time, do not follow the lights. Mai turned the recorder off. After that, she quit making horror content. Phuc never returned to An Giang. As for me, I do not know whether I am still myself in the way living people understand that word. Sometimes, on fog-heavy nights on Thiên Cấm Sơn, after the pilgrims have gone down and the wind trembles across Tui Lim Lake, after the temple bell fades into cloud, I stand halfway up Vo Bo Hong and look down at the delta. I see the headlights at the foot of the mountain. I see houses. I see human lives flare up and fade away. And sometimes, I hear someone call my name from very far away, but I do not answer, because I have learned the first rule of this mountain. On Thiên Cấm Sơn, not every voice that calls you is trying to bring you home. Some voices only want you to remember that you never truly left the mountain.
If one day you visit Nui Cam, go ahead and admire the clouds, visit the pagodas, Stand beside Tui Liam Lake and look toward Vobo Hong in the evening fog. But if night falls and a pale blue light drifts silently between the trees, do not follow it. And if someone calls your exact name from the darkness, do not answer. Because some mountains do not hold people with chains. They hold them with promises.